All right, guys. So I am here with my guy Nick. All right, Nick is the owner of Black Tie Title, and he's one of the partners, one of our good partners that we have had the pleasure of working with. Of course, as I've been telling you guys, we're trying to get a little bit more transparent to you guys. If you're watching this video, you are probably interested in potentially working with us over at Investor IQ. My name is Michael Rakpo. I am the managing member, one of the owners of Investor IQ. And Nick, man, the pleasure of having you. I guess go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, so my name is Nick Varner. I'm the owner of Black Tie Title in Cleveland, Ohio. We've been in business for 8 years. So I, moved to Cleveland, Ohio in 2014. I was living in New York at the time. Wanted to do more real estate, so I moved to Cleveland. Was an investor, wore a bunch of different hats in real estate, but eventually started my title company in 2018, and we've been going strong ever since. And we're happy to be here on the show with you and Investor IQ.
Awesome, man, nice. So first and foremost, we have a lot of East Coast clients that are navigating into the market, whether it's as an out-of-state investor. In your case, you moved there, right? So, talk to us a little bit about this whole out-of-state thing. Why is it even attractive for somebody like yourself that is, from New York getting into a market, like Cleveland?
Yeah, so when I was thinking about moving to Cleveland in 2014, I'd been living in New York City for 7 years. I was working kind of corporate jobs, and it was great. But as you go through your 20s, I got hit 30 and wanted to kind of have more of a opportunity to be more of an entrepreneur, have a family, things like that. So I think just Cleveland and the back in the Midwest, just cost of living. You obviously couldn't do a lot of the things I wanted to try to do in New York City, and I think one thing that's been kind of cool is that I've had some successes there myself, but if you have a failure, it's not also catastrophic either, because if you try to buy something in New York City and Brooklyn or whatever have you, if you make a mistake, it's very it's not great.
Right.
So in Cleveland, I didn't do everything right there, but I've done. You just keep trying, you learn, and eventually, I think one of the things that I've learned the most is if you surround yourself with a good team and a good group of people, that can really make a difference.
Right. And that keeps coming up a lot, right? The people that I talk to, that even in their own individual personal experiences, everybody talks about, how, they had to learn along the way. Like, man, the other guys, like, if I had somebody like Investor IQ, oh my goodness, just to be able to come into another market that you're not in, or not living in, So I think what I like about you guys, number one, at least with our experience of working together, you guys are very professional. You typically get stuff done on time. And one thing about title that a lot of people don't know is you're basically protecting both sides on the transaction, right? So I guess to get a little bit into that, let's say we're doing a deal, and we bring to you a deal, and you guys have the project now. You guys have the deal. How are you protecting potentially somebody that is all the way in, Chicago or wherever they're located? How are you guys as a title company also protecting that out-of-state investor as well?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that the location of the clients, we do deals for and whether it's buyers or lenders. We do deals for people that are all over the country and even outside the country too. But as far as where you're at, it's at the end of the day, what we're actually offering and selling to clients, but aside of just peace of mind, professionalism, returning your phone calls, returning your emails, and all that stuff. Settlement services is more like the escrow and the numbers part of it, in terms of we're taking the money, we are dispersing the funds, we're using showing settlement statements, the debits and credits that are the anatomy of a real estate deal, whether that's taxes or insurance or so on. Which also carries risk, right? We're taking in money. There's a lot of frauds out there and things like that that are going to tell you to send your money here or there. So you have to be mindful of that. And then also from the policy and the title perspective, So we're going to search the buyer's name, the seller's name, the address itself, and you're going to see what liens specifically are attached to the property. That could be typically the most basic type of lien would probably be a mortgage, right? Like, so if you you buy 123 Main Street, you have a loan from, let's say, Wells Fargo or something like that for $100,000. Well, we would try to be getting the payoff for that in terms that, the new buyer is who's going to get an owner's policy, and potentially if the buyer has a lender, they're going to get a loan policy that they have marketable title.
Right.
Marketable title, it's not perfect title, it's marketable title, right? So that's what we're offering.
Right. And, I think it's important that, when a transaction is going, that the title is clear, right? Because what the buyer can potentially take on is, things that, was left over from the seller side, right? So that's why I think those searches are very important as well. Most of these transactions also has what is called title insurance, right? Can you talk to me a little bit about what is title insurance for somebody that's pretty much a newbie that's watching this? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So let's just say you're a cash buyer and you're buying, again, 123 Main Street for $100,000 in cash. In that perspective, we would be doing a search of the property. There'd be a seller. That seller might have either personal debts that could potentially attach to the property or debts just against the property themselves, right? That could be taxes. That could be mortgages, like I said, child support, it could be state tax liens, could be IRS tax liens. So our job is to search the property, and for whatever's recorded, of course, whatever we're aware of, then we're trying to clear those title issues up or work with our underwriting counsel for them to make a decision saying, okay, in this situation, you can clear this lien for this or that reason. And it obviously gets fairly complex with that, to that degree. But at a high level, you're trying to clear those items so that you're able to then give an owner's policy to the person. Now, you're also, if let's say you're going to buy that property, then you have a loan. Well, then the lender's also going to want a loan policy. So yeah, technically things like it'll say, for example, that it's optional, right? Title insurance. Well, so yes and no. So it's optional in the sense that you can go out and buy property and not get title insurance. That from that perspective, it is optional. But that also doesn't mean that a title company or an attorney has to work with you either, right? So for example, if you're just going to say yeah, I want you to do all this stuff, and then I don't want to pay for the insurance product or any of the services. Well, then, yeah, that's fine, but then we're just not going to issue a coverage, and then if you have a problem in the future, you're not going to be able to file a claim. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, makes complete sense. So, kind of fast forwarding into a little bit, just I guess getting into it a little bit. The city of Cleveland, all right? I tell people all the time, it is a fantastic place, number one, to get started in real estate. It's a fantastic market, in my opinion, to be able to scale real estate, especially if you're utilizing methods of your BRRRRs, or you love rentals, and you're trying to really build up that rental portfolio, or you're trying to start a rental portfolio, even some fix and flips that you can do really, really quick without having to really dig really, really deep in the pockets, right? So in terms of the city of Cleveland and surrounding areas, can you talk to us a little bit about your own investing? Where do you like being at? What type of properties do you like doing? Talk to me a little bit about Nick's investing journey. Yeah.
So when I moved to Cleveland in 2014, I think I was shell shocked by comparing it from a New York City to Cleveland. The prices, I was buying the time duplexes for and these are real purchase prices, $14,000, $7,000, $22,000, $30,000, and that was all day from 2014 to 20, even 17, 18.
17, 18 probably. Yeah.
And then the prices did move up from there, but even as far as 2017 through 2019, I was buying, I had a kind of a trade that I was working on, that was working all the time, in Garfield, Maple, and Warrensville Heights, those kind of inner ring suburb cities. Yep. I liked part of working in that city when you have construction is figuring out what cities are not, I wouldn't say easy to work with, but just like where you kind of understand the rules, because each city kind of has their own building department, their own way of administrating like their rules surrounding, point of sale is this thing that will come up a lot. Like if you Google search point of sale, there's certain cities that have point of sale, certain cities that don't. And the way that they administrate those rules, like when you first get there, that was really confusing. So I had this trade going though, where I was buying properties in like Warrensville for like 30 to 50,000. They were like 4-bedroom, 1-bath. And I would put probably 25 to 30 into them, and I would sell them for like 70, 80, 90, 100,000.
Come on.
Yeah.
nice little change there.
Yeah. But so at the time, I was working, I was getting the funds with like hard money, and then I would, and like not every deal, like that sounds good when you're talking about a podcast. Not every deal was perfect for me either, but but I was able to, the ones at the time there wasn't, this field's changed a lot because the Burr method, for example, if you're a self-employed person, like being able to refi out, like that part where, you buy it, you rehab it, you rent it, and then you refi. Well, that refi leg of the equation for me, at least in 2017, either I wasn't good enough at finding it, or there just weren't as many options with the DSCR products that are available now.
Right.
So I had some problems getting out. Like I could find the money on the hard money side of it, but then on the back side, I was kind of like, okay, I don't like all the risks that I'm taking as I pile these up. And then as you go to the construction phase of it was extremely capital intensive, as I'm sure you and your viewers can relate to. So.
Right.
But yeah, like there were some trades like that where I did, and then a couple of the properties I bought in like Lakewood, that was an area that went like way up.
Yeah, Lakewood
over the course of the last decade. And still, like if you can get rentals there, and like for example, that's a super stable place to get rentals. You can get multifamily or singles in Lakewood. Like you should do it, but it's just more challenging to make the numbers work and things like that now.
Now, were you buying off market at that time, or were you buying on market pretty most part? Like were you working with realtors, MLS? Like how were you getting your deals at that time?
Believe it or not, back in the day, I did almost 100% of my stuff on market. And
sounds like it, Nick. And when you said you couldn't pull out there, but go ahead.
Well, so I was going to say is that like I know that like a lot of our investors, like they really love like off market stuff, and I get that. And there's some real advantages to doing off market for even more subtle reasons like refinancing on the back end and things like that. But as far as like back in those days, I actually think that a lot of people would get focused too much on like where the current numbers are of that day.
Yeah,
instead of like, future. Well, do you think that you're going to keep selling these singles for 4-bedroom, 1-bath, or 5-bedroom, 2 baths? Do you think these are going to keep selling for $50,000 indefinitely? Yeah. And these were like in, decent enough areas where like, it wasn't like the type of thing where you couldn't stop for gas, you couldn't stop for get a bite for lunch. Like, people living there that are going to work, they have a life, there's new schools being built and stuff like that. So it's like, it was difficult for me to believe, depending on how you traded it, it was difficult for me to believe at the time, even that like they weren't going to go up in value. Right.
Absolutely. So, okay. So most people, and you've already kind of dropped some of your areas in there, right? I don't want to get too much deep into your trades and your secrets, but, most people, when they hear about Cleveland and the things that they hear about, I guess I'll give you the general things that they hear. Most of the time it's invest on the west side, right? It's, stay out of EC, right? It's, try to find, if you're doing the Burrs, right, you want to, try to find off market deals a lot of the times. Another one is the Heights. That's a lot of ones that I say, I tell people, right, is, typically your Heights, your Cleveland Heights and your Garfield Heights and your Shaker Heights, those are like the, nice areas to be able to, nice investable areas, I guess. So what would be your favorite, areas or like your bread and butter that you would say for you?
Yeah. So I love Garfield Heights. And recently I've started really enjoying a lot working in Lorain County, especially.
Oh, Lorain is beautiful.
Yeah. So like Lorain City, Elyria, and some of those areas have been quite interesting to work in. And I would say too, like, I mean, look, Cleveland's got some great deals still, in my opinion. the city's changing a little bit with how their building department's running things. So I think the city is working at trying to be more transparent on and things like lead is one thing that they're trying to make a big point of right now. So they're a lot more active with their documentation than the city of Cleveland used to be. I mean, the city of Cleveland's a huge place, right?
Yep.
And so as administrations change, the way that city gets administrated changes a little bit. But it's not good or bad. It's just that you got to kind of just understanding the rules,
right.
For each city, and like the things do change over time. Look, I think Akron has some interesting opportunities. We're in Akron as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
Summit County, Lorain County are interesting. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So kind of getting back into on the title side, right? You've seen plenty of deals that we've been doing, as well as with our partners. I mean, we've doing a lot of deals, and we like one thing about us with Investor IQ. I think we're big on relationships, right? Which is why I even reached out to them. Yeah, we could have just been continued doing deals and deals and deals, but the thing is, we're big on relationships. I think that's how great partnerships last, off of relationships. So I guess, for somebody that is working, with you guys, brand new, right? What are some, I guess, tips of going about as they're navigating, through making sure that they're doing their due diligence, I guess you would say, prior to getting into the, part where we're working with title? Like, what tips would you give them?
Yeah, so I would just say kind of wearing two hats, like the title part, which is my day job, and just like someone who's just done some investing in the past. So from an investor's perspective, if I were giving some advice on that, I would say, definitely work with whether it's a potentially having a good home inspector is really important. Making sure that you understand your numbers. I think also being realistic about your numbers, the higher the cap rates and the higher the cash on cashes in your spreadsheet, also being willing to challenge that thesis and saying, okay, well, why is the cap rate so high on this one? Did I just find a great deal, or is there something else that's going on? So working with an experienced team of people, that's where probably you as an operator can really add some value to your clients and saying hey, I've been there, done that. In this city, here's some do's and don'ts. So I think working with an experienced team, I think that when you have how are you going to finance the deal?
Yes.
That's a big part of it. Are you going to work with a lender, or do you have cash? What's your exit strategy? Are you trying to buy these things for 5, 10, 15 years, or are you trying to, flip these things? That's a totally different question, right? So then I would be looking at different things as, you're doing that. If you're a buy, are most of your investors buy and hold right now, or they flip?
Oh, you buy and hold for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, so I think with buy and hold, thinking about it, 5 years in real estate's a really, really long time.
Right.
So if you're holding something for 5 years, it's you're married to it. So
absolutely.
Thinking about it more so in terms of this is whether you like it or not, you're going to be somewhat in a business relationship with that tenant. Now, you might not be the manager. You might not ever talk to them. You might not know their names.
Right.
But you're probably going to have a property manager who does, right? And then if there's creating a lot of problems, those are going to come in the form of bills, right? Whereas if you're in, areas where, or situations where they're more likely to be positive, whether it's on, automatic CMHA or Section 8 rents, or that, you have a great property manager who just has great relationships, or you have your properties, they are in just great condition because, you maybe turned them over and you made some value there where okay, the stuff is not always breaking, the furnace is, working.
Right.
So I think if you really think about, okay, how am I going to do acquisition? Then you have a plan with that. You need to set up a team with do you need a lender? Who's going to be your lender? And then, okay, what are you going to do with it? Are you doing BRRRR? All right, well then speed's really important, right? Because time value of money is everything. And so getting in and getting out of these positions is really important.
Absolutely. And as you guys can probably see and hear by now, Nick is kind of giving you guys perspective, not only from a business ownership standpoint of, being an owner of a title company, but also most importantly as an investor, right? And I think that's important, for our company as well. I mean, it's 18 of us, and I think 13 of us are real estate investors. And even on your side, dealing with you guys, you're an investor dealing with lenders that we work with, they're investors as well. Just having people around you that get it, I think is important, because then when you're dealing with, the ARVs and the projections and possible refis, and, we're all giving and doing realistic numbers, in worst case scenarios, I feel like is most important, while you're, working your numbers out. I always tell everybody that is working with us, or whoever, even if you're not working with us, buyer's due diligence is still important. No matter who you're working with, it's always good to do your numbers, do your own work. Even if somebody says that this is a good deal and it looks like a great deal, if the cap is like so high or the cash on cash is phenomenal, ask yourself like, that looks like crazy high. Let me go, do some of my research to make sure this makes sense. So, man, it was really great. I really appreciate your time. I guess if you had any closing, remarks or advice, of somebody that is, thinking about, coming into the market, I guess, to close us out here, Nick, what would you say?
I mean, Mike, I would say, like, if your investors are thinking about moving forward with something, definitely push back on to folks like yourself.
Yep.
I'm happy to answer questions too from any of your great investors. But
yep.
I mean, thinking about, hey, Mike, would this be something that you'd want to do? Like that's probably a great question, right?
Absolutely.
So, because like there's a lot of things like taking no action for a lot of us as investors or small business owners. If you just take no action, well, that's also not a plan either. Like
right.
If you never take any risk and you never try anything, well, that's probably not a recipe for success either, right? So we have to find ways to, place our bets somewhere where we believe in it, and
Absolutely.
Finding places where you think, okay, I can see myself, especially if you're buy and hold, like, okay, this is a property where I could see myself being successful over the long haul. This is a property manager I like.
Right.
This is a team that I like to work with.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, we appreciate your time. Many more to come. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we just closed out on one, not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. But appreciate your time, man. Hopefully we can do many more of these. Probably more of a live Q&A with some of our guys all in one room. I think would be dope too. But appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.